Our first speaker tonight is Dr. Trevor Clark. Trevor is Dean of Undergraduate, overseeing all our undergraduate programs. He's also on the academic board and a member of our Learning and Teaching Committee. Welcome, Dr. Clark.
Squeeze past. Thanks, Georgie. It is a pleasure to be here again tonight. And I've seen a number of these friendly faces out in the audience on a couple of occasions, if not more. So it's good to see you back here on campus. Tonight I'm to deliver a sort of a speech around what the faculty stands for. But I've decided that's probably not the best thing to do, given that I know that I've spoken to many of you before about what it's like to be here at ICMS. And I know my learned colleagues are going to be providing a lot more context as well around the process here. But I will give you a real deep insight into what this undergraduate space looks like and what your sons and daughters are actually going to come into. What does it actually mean to them when they actually arrive here on day one, ready to study? So the question you might ask, and it's probably been asked before, what is it like to live in Manly and work in a castle? I'm sure you've been asked that before, okay? So it's a pretty awesome place to be. As you've seen on a couple of occasions, you stand out there on the balcony and you look at the view down there, but you still have to sit in the classroom and do your academic work. That's the funny thing. Education doesn't get done on its own, yeah? The work still has to happen. But the different thing about here at ICMS, this is not school. This is not, we are moved on from secondary school. We just need to make that clarification. This is a tertiary or a higher education institution. So we divulge a lot of that responsibility to you, the students, yeah? It's a two-way connection, you and the students providing that context. So you parents are also thinking to yourselves now, are they doing the right thing? Am I able to let them go? Can they come to ICMS and know that they're going to be safe, they're going to reach all their goals and expectations while they're here? Are they going to be happy? Are they going to meet people? Well, I know that both Talia and is going to provide a lot of context later on around what that looks like. And I know her mum Kelly is also going to do the same, because I met Kelly on at least 3 occasions last year before Talia actually arrived here at ICMS. So they've both been in that same scenario that you guys are in tonight. So it is a pleasure to actually have you back again on campus. And I really hope, for the best intentions, that you are focused on what your end goal is. Yep. That's what we do here. Everything that we teach here has already been designed with the end in place. We've worked the whole setup in that process where we've gone, this is the end goal. We've designed all our subjects to work in a way that it becomes that backward design. This is how you get to the next step, how you get to the next step. Here's the thing. You still have to submit all your work, students, in order to pass, no matter how flash the course looks. That's the other thing. Now, I just also had a conversation, Kelly, I know it was you again. So Charlie comes from the country area, 57 kilometres away, I think. And now Kelly says 57 kilometres, doesn't sound that far. Ruby, how far away do you guys live? Is it not that far? Probably not 57. 73. So what's actually happening is Charlie's going on an exchange to do her work placement. She's probably going to tell you about that in her speech. But the thing that resonated with me, and I walked away, I had to turn away because I wasn't sure whether Kelly was going to cry or not, but she said of being 57 kilometres away, she's now going to be 15,057 because she's about to go to the US. So I'll let her tell that story. So these are opportunities that are here at ICMS. Last night I spoke at, I was the Dean. It was the Dean's list of students. So we have the best of the best students here in terms of the top academic achievers were here last night. And we released an opportunity for those students. One of them is going to get the opportunity to study in Germany in March next year for a whole term, and that is a full scholarship to go and live and study for a term in Germany. So, and that's only going to be released to the Dean's List students. So, a couple of goals for you, Dom, mate. Not hard, is it? The idea is, you know, you apply yourself, you get the rewards. So, what is my job? What do I do? I've told you before, I'm here, I help people. That's basically all I do, okay? I have a great staff, my academic team at undergrad level, a fantastic team. Glenn Murray, my program manager for hospitality and tourism. Louisa Arango, who's now my program manager for business entrepreneurship. She's new, she's doing a great job. Nicole Venter, who I'm sure a lot of you would know, she does all the programs for events, fashion and marketing. She looks after that program. And Dr. J1, who looks after sport, Tali knows well, sport and property. So he'll be your program manager, Ruby. So, and this is my team, and Marcella, who looks after accounting. So if you're doing accounting, Marcella is your program manager. So I've got a really good team. I'm really happy here at ICMS. I get to work with these wonderful people as well. And as I said earlier, and you, Walshy, especially you, mate. I have a fellow lecturer here that's arrived from Queensland. He's at Griffith University. He teaches remotely for us, and he was here 20 years ago, and he's still amazed at this place. So it's great to be here, and I wish you all the absolute best, and I hope that your children get the best of everything here at ICMS. Thank you very much. Georgie? I have to now the pleasure of welcoming a very good colleague of mine, Mr. Phil Watson, who is the
Click the button, yes.
Vice President, Domestic and International Development. Phil Watson.
Thanks, Dr. Clark, and welcome to everyone online and everyone here this evening face-to-face. It's lovely to see you all. For those of you that have joined us throughout the opening moments, please feel free at any time to jump up and grab some food and some drinks. That's not a problem at all. So as Dr. Clark mentioned, my name is Phil Watson. I'm the Vice President of Domestic and International Development, which is a fancy title for saying my team and I are essentially responsible for you guys prior to arrival and answering all your questions and making sure you're comfortable in the process for maybe yourself, but particularly your children, starting at ICMS. So I'm not just someone who works here. I actually have quite a personal connection to ICMS, which some of you know. There's a few new faces here this evening, and I have some terrible photos to prove it. This was my time here at ICMS, so I graduated a while ago now. You can see that I really didn't like my haircut back then, so I shaved it off. But we used to have uniforms and everything. Now we don't, luckily. But I actually used to study here at ICMS. As you can see, I was pretty involved during my time here, which obviously I loved, but I didn't go straight from studying to working here. I left and got my first role at Football Federation Australia, which ICMS actually set me up for, which was incredible. And any of you that like the Football World Cup that's on at the moment, happy to chat about the Socceroos post this, because I was actually with them during the Asian Cup back in 2015 when they won the tournament here on Australian soil. So that was a long 6 or 7 weeks. We had 1 day off in 7 weeks, but obviously worth it when you win. So, guys, I know that Year 12 can be one of the most stressful and unpredictable years for not only your child, but also you as a parent. And I think people have this perception that now COVID is over, whatever that kind of means, that everything is back to normal, so it's not as stressful as it has been in the last couple of years. Now, I definitely don't agree with that, but to complicate this process, the normal pressures, this year for you guys has actually been full of more uncertainty. What does it look like from the last 2 years of not being in school? What does that mean for my Year 12? How is that actually going to impact me materially, sitting in class now face-to-face? You know, were my first 2 years of Year 12, the foundational years, they've all been disrupted. So what does that actually mean for me come HSC exams? What does that mean for my subject marks? I don't think people really thought that through when they kind of plonked everyone back into class and said, all right, back to normal, here we go. So it is a very, I suppose, stressful time for you guys on top of a traditionally stressful process anyway. So what does that mean for you guys? There's a lot of uncertainty for everyone in this room finishing year 12, and if your children are only in year 11, because sometimes we have parents here a year ahead, which is great, same things apply. You're still kind of getting your bearings again post a COVID schooling period. So how do you get that certainty both short and long term, and particularly for parents in year 12 right now, how can you best support your children or child moving to uni next year? So that's what I'm here to tell you about, and also to hopefully clarify some things on the process for you, so you leave today thinking, okay, this is what it means, this is what I do next, both now and in the long term. And I always get this, my kids tell me nothing, so please tell me something. That's my goal today. So you leave having some clarity and information on what the next steps are for you and your child. So the thing to remember about ICMS is that prior to day one, everything we do is a personalised approach, which is quite rare for a university level institution. A lot of it's sort of system-based, but at ICMS, everything is very personal, and we've been doing that since day one. It's not because of the pandemic we've had that reaction. This has been our fundamental process, basically since we started. So this is what I'm covering off for you today. I'm not going to go into heaps of detail on everything. I'm going to touch upon a lot of things. So if you have any questions at the end, please ask us. And obviously we're here, along with the team of student advisors sitting here today, we're here to answer all your questions. So firstly, just so you have clarity, in case you're not too sure, these are the undergraduate degrees that we offer here at ICMS. There's 10, and each of them have an embedded diploma level within them as well. So the first 8 subjects of every bachelor degree is actually a diploma. So there are diploma options available, and then we also go to postgraduate studies right up to the master's level. So ICMS has the full suite of products available educationally, except for doctorate degrees. So we, exact same as UTS, exact same as Macquarie Uni, Sydney Uni, all those institutions, these levels of qualification are exactly the same. So you could take a bachelor degree from ICMS and go and do a master's at UTS or Sydney Uni. So the qualification quality is exactly the same, if not better, because the rigour that we have to go through with the government to get these approved is a lot more substantial than, say, Sydney Uni or UTS. So it's a very long and rigorous process for us to get courses approved. So entry options, what are they and how do they work, most importantly? So traditionally, at a very high level, these are the 6 ways students can get in to study at ICMS. And these are pretty common across a lot of institutions. So there's direct entry, which is through our website. That's the online application form. There's leadership, elite athlete, and early entry. These are all forms of alternate entry. Now, the most common form of alternate entry is early entry, and a lot of students do use that option now to secure a place at an institution prior to their HSC results and even their HSC exams coming out. There's the school recommendation scheme, which is UAC's version of early entry, so exact same concept, get in before your final exams. And then UAC itself, which is like the traditional, almost like rite of passage for most, particularly New South Wales-based students, which is the preference system where students put in their application via the UAC system. Now, at the moment, for anyone in year 12, if you're in year 11 currently, or your children in year 11, these are still all open for you because we're not that far down the pipeline. But for anyone in year 12 here tonight, early entry and the school recommendation scheme are now closed. So if that excited you, I'm sorry, they're done. But the other options are now all still available for you here at ICMS to gain entry if you haven't yet. And for anyone watching online, if you haven't started any of these processes, I would recommend doing that sooner rather than later because things are filling up very quickly. And once the spots are filled, then we just move everyone to the next intake, which is May. So UAC and direct entry, what are they and how do they work? People get quite confused by these two, probably the most. So UAC is called the University Admission Centre. Everyone just says UAC, it's a lot easier. But UAC is a centralised admissions system for all the major institutions, one of which is ICMS. So essentially back in the day, all the institutions didn't want to do their own admissions processing and application, and we all went and UAC was formed. So it's a centralised point where students enter their courses. There's 5 preferences now, 1 to 5, and they list their courses in order of preference and hoping to gain entry based on the criteria for that course at the institution. Then the offers are granted to students in the offer rounds based on their preference order and if they meet the criteria or not. So at a high level, your first preference is the first course that you have a chance to get into, and if when the offer round comes out, the institution who your first preference is will go to your application, look at the criteria they set for the course, check whether you meet that criteria. If you do, then you get an offer. If you don't meet that criteria, then the system automatically goes to your second preference, then your third, your fourth, your fifth, until it gets to an institution that says, here's an offer, we want you to study with us. If you don't meet the criteria for any institution, then you don't get any offers. So that's why your preference order, particularly at a place like ICMS, is very important, because when you get to an institution that says, yes, we're going to give you an offer, in that round you can't get an offer below that. So you might really want to study here at ICMS, but you have us at number 2, and we go through all our first preferences, and those that are eligible we give an offer to, and we don't have any more space, we might not even get to our second preferences to give you an offer. So it's important both for you, because you want to get your preferred course option highest chance, but it's also important for us because you might have us second or third, and we just might not even get to look at our second or third preferences because we've filled up on our first preferences. Offers can only be given in certain windows, which is different to direct. So for those of you that have had maybe SRS offers, there's certain times of the year each month where the UAC system provides offers to students. And for ICMS, as I was saying before, we say you must be first preference because we generally don't get below our first preference for offers. So if, for example, in the SRS system, we only gave out around 19% of the applicants an offer because they weren't the right preference order for us. So that was quite a shock for some people because we were fifth, fourth preference and they didn't get an offer. Now, to complement that, or I suppose to give you the other side, for the direct entry scheme, which is through our website, not the UAC website, this is where you put it through our website. Like I said, you can put in you have to put in different applications for different courses. So at UAC, if you want to do sport and events at ICMS, if you can't work out yet what you want, you could put sports first preference, events second preference, and in the one user login, you have 2 applications to ICMS. Okay, but when you go direct, if you want to do sports and events, if you can't choose, you have to put in a separate application for both courses because the form has one option, and until you tell us you want a second option, we only know you want one course to look at. If you're not in Year 12, which is most people here tonight are, but if you have siblings or friends who maybe also know about ICMS, they don't have to go through UAC. Most people who have finished Year 12 don't, and direct entry is the most common way for people who have finished Year 12. Now, the difference between direct and UAC, one of the big differences is we can give out offers at any time of the year. So once you meet the criteria for an offer, we can give you an offer any time of the year, whereas UAC is at set times. So often we find people who go through direct, will actually get an offer prior to UAC because we can give offers any time of the year. And there's no application fee, whereas UAC has an application fee. Now, both are approved and administered by our admissions department. So whether you're going through UAC, whether you're going through direct, or both, our admissions team is the one behind the scenes looking at all the detail, looking at all the data, and working out whether you get an offer through either or both channels. So it's not that UAC do the admissions process, it's not that UAC review all the content and then determine whether you're eligible or not. They just facilitate the application process and preference system, and then every institution in the back end go through the content to work out whether you get an offer. So that's the difference between the 2 main processes. So tuition, how does it work? So at a private institution, many people are familiar with a thing called HECS. Now, fee help is used by all private institutions to cover tuition fees, just the same as HECS. So HECS, it's actually called HECS help, like fee help, and the help stands for Higher Education Loan Program. Just no one says the help for HECS, they just call it HECS. The thing to remember is for public unis, they actually use fee help, but for master's programs. So it's actually a system that the public unis use as well, but for undergrad, they use HECS, and private institutions, ourselves, Torrens University, Bond University, we all use the fee help system. It's the exact same concept. The government, if you elect, covers all your tuition fees up front for you, and then you pay it off through your tax as you earn it. When you get over the threshold, you pay off your fee help over the course of the next 5, 10, 15 years, depending on how much you're earning. Now, the reason why that works so well like HECS is you don't pay anything back until you're earning a minimum amount in your annual salary. So It's the exact same process as HECS. You can make a direct payment. Some students will pay directly every term. You don't have to use fee help. That's not compulsory. And other students will do a combination. So some students like to pay 50% up front every term and put the rest on fee help. It just depends on your personal circumstance. But I would suggest off the top of my head, that 99% of domestic students will use fee help. It's just the easiest option for them. High academic places. So some people aren't too aware of these, but these are equivalent to a Commonwealth supported place or a CSP at a public university. So a high academic place actually reduces your tuition fees by 40%. So what these do is these align the price for our degrees to exactly the same as a public uni business degree. So we don't want price to be the reason why you don't end up coming to ICMS, because that's not why we operate. We're here to improve you and build your career. But CSP, so if you see CSP at Macquarie or Sydney Uni or UTS, we have the exact same thing. It's just called a high academic place or a HAP. They're mainly awarded through UAC. 98% of them are awarded through UAC. So if you have a UAC account and you want to get a high academic place, and the cutoff is generally the 70 ATAR range, then you must have ICMS at number 1, because there are a limited number of high academic places available. Now, scholarships. Now, these have closed for this year for new students, but the reason why I want to talk about this tonight is there are a huge range of scholarships available for current students. So I know a couple of you have already applied for the scholarships this year, and good luck to you. I really hope you are successful. But you can see here the scholarship program at ICMS is quite substantial. So per sort of head of student, we can't find a scholarship program that is bigger anywhere in the country. So I would strongly suggest, if you haven't obviously got it in for the new student scholarships, make sure you put your hat in the ring for current student scholarships, because there's plenty on offer for you whilst you're here. And some of them include tuition waivers, others include tuition waivers and even placement for your industry training as well. So I would suggest putting your hat in the ring. And we also have some other bursaries to alleviate some of the financial commitment to studying at uni. And the first one is particularly maybe for the online people tonight, because getting here is obviously a little bit difficult in the afternoon because you might be regional or interstate. We have an accommodation bursary for students who live essentially outside the Sydney Basin. So think Wollongong through to Penrith, through to Barara. If you're sort of outside that radius, then you will most probably be eligible for the regional or interstate accommodation bursary, which reduces reduces your accommodation fee by 50% for the first 2 terms of study here. So we know regional students basically have to move to campus, so we want to help alleviate some of that pressure up front, particularly off the back of COVID, where people may not have had employment for those 2 years for some of it. So that's for regional. And then for local students, there's a $250 travel bursary, which you can put towards petrol or Opal cards, depending how you get to and from uni. But just talk to your student advisor for that one. That one is a particular form to fill out. So timetables, we get this question quite early on in the process, but we're quite proud of our setup here at ICMS, and Dr. Clark and his team particularly have done a fantastic job on the timetable. So the timetables for students applying to ICMS for February 2023 are available now. So if you're trying to work out your work schedule for next January, February onwards, if you are at the right stage of the application process, you can get your timetable now. So we've got that all up and running. Yeah, it's ready to go for you. We're probably waiting on you, to be honest, to fill out the rest of your paperwork. So what you have to do is, if you have an unconditional offer, or if you received an SRS offer that's conditional, you have to accept your offer, have an interview and pass that interview. And if anyone got in on early entry, you were successful, you've done those first 2 steps. Then you'll be sent your letter of acceptance, and you'll get what's called your eCAF form. Now, your eCAF form is what you have to complete to get fee help for study, for your tuition. Once that's completed, we will then send you your timetable not long after. And the timetable is 2 days per week, generally, Monday to Wednesday. So total 12 hours of class time a week. It used to be, when I was here, around 25 to 32 hours of class time, but over the years we've refined the process with timetables and the structures of lessons, so you guys have plenty of time to do your uni work outside of class, have a social life and work. So if you are looking to have a job on the side of study, then if you can get your timetable sorted in the next couple of days, then you can tell your boss your schedule right now. So if you need that, then make sure you talk to your advisor and get your paperwork done so we can get you your timetable. So I was talking about certainty before, short and long term. So just in summary for you, for the short term, for some certainty. This is up until kind of class starts. So we have non-ATAR entry-based options. So we don't believe the ATAR, particularly through COVID, is an accurate reflection of who you are as a person, or your children particularly, and it doesn't predict your future career success. So the ATAR isn't a mark, it's a rank. So you could get quite strong marks, but depending on your subjects and your school and ranking, you might actually get a fairly average ATAR. And we don't believe that that is appropriate for entry for university, and we don't believe it predicts your success in your career. And we often get feedback that the students who have called a middle of the range ATAR, let's say 70 to 80 or even a bit below that, actually perform almost the best on their industry placement. Because they're the students who might not be super incredibly book smart, but they know how to deal with people, they know how to be innovative, deal with customers, they know how to work with their managers and their boss and their colleagues, and they're the ones that do well in their career. And why do you go to university? You go to university to start building your career. So we believe, we don't think the ATAR is a reflection for entry, so we use subject marks and an interview if necessary for entry to ICMS, because the subject marks are a more accurate reflection of how you actually performed in your exams. As I said, the timetables are now available. There's a travel bursary, and I know people often take a photo of this screen on the next one, so I'm kind of going through it quickly for you. There's the accommodation bursary for any regional or interstate students looking to study at ICMS. And we'll get to this shortly, but the industry training team is already looking for placements for you for your industry training with ICMS. So you have certainty, this is what's happening in the short term, to make sure you have the best experience possible here at ICMS. So I can see a few cameras up, so I'll wait a second before I move on, but you can have a lot of certainty, you know what's happening in the next 2 to 3 months of your time before getting to ICMS. So in the medium term, kind of once class starts, you're guaranteed your experience, which we'll touch upon shortly. I'm not going to go into detail on that, but your work placement at ICMS is guaranteed. You literally cannot graduate without doing work placement here at ICMS. It's not a nice to have. It's not a nice little carrot for maybe the high performing students if you do well in class. Every student must complete industry training to graduate from ICMS. And that's unmatched across every other institution we can find. Other institutions may have work experience for 20, 30, 40 hours, but that's kind of like year 10 work experience. You're not going to go to a place for 30 hours and get a good experience. You're there for around 9 months for your experience. This has been our philosophy and approach since day one. We're not sort of reacting to the trends in the marketplace. For over 25 years, ICMS has done this work placement program, and that means our connections in the industry are incredibly strong and incredibly broad. So your children will be going off on placements that have quality content and a quality experience for their CV and for their foundational placements of their career. And I think it's important to know and say congratulations to the industry training team, particularly, that we were still placing students during COVID, which is a reflection of our quality of our network, the commitment we have to doing this and doing it properly. And if we couldn't find placements that were appropriate for our students during COVID, we just didn't place them until later when we could, and they brought academic subjects forward to keep moving with their degree over time. So we don't just place students in placements to tick a box. It's a genuine placement process that they go through with the WIL team to have a fantastic experience. And long term, after graduation, what does this kind of all mean for you and your child? What does it kind of result in? At the graduation, which happened only a couple of weeks ago, 98% of our students had a job prior to graduation. And the industry average for that is around about 64% within 4 months of graduation, but we're sitting at 98% prior to graduation, which is a reflection of our network, the student experience here, and the work placement that they go on as part of their degree. And the qualities they come out with aren't dated, they aren't old school capabilities. As Dr. Clark was saying before, we've worked with industry from day one when we built all of these degrees to find out what the employers wanted at the end, and they said, great, we're going to design that. And then we worked from graduation essentially all the way back to day one, February 1st, 2023. We worked back to that date and said, from this day on, what do you need to do in class and in your experience whilst you're here at ICMS to be employable in your industry? And that's what we've designed. At ICMS, we have a fantastic academic support network as well. So as Dr. Clark said, you're not in high school anymore. The way I kind of describe it to people is you're at university. It's university-style teaching and learning, just in a smaller environment. So you're not going to have a lecture hall of 300 people here at ICMS. Your biggest class is around 35 students, but that means you have fantastic support. We have a fully dedicated student success centre here at ICMS for both students who might need additional support, maybe any kind of learning difficulties or any disabilities. Also for high performing students, you might be sitting on a distinction average and you want to work out how to get to a high distinction. That's all here for you free of charge as part of the ICMS experience. So I think I have 3 slides here, and you're more than welcome to take photos as a bit of a summary for you. It's a timeline between now and starting. So as I said, timetables are ready. So if you're in a position to receive one, I would suggest get going with your paperwork, because the best timetables just happen to fall for the students who are most proactive, because we have the most class availability. So get in now before you have limited restrictions on your options. If you got a conditional offer through SRS and you haven't yet interviewed, book in quickly, because as soon as the marks come out for Year 12 and ATARs, then in the main round a few days later, all the other offers go out and the spots fill up, and then timetables fill up quickly. So if you do have an SRS offer and online as well, make sure you get your interview done quickly. On the 15th of December, ATARs and your subject marks are released. That fun day we see every year. So that's on the 15th of December. So I'll just wait for a couple of photos. Done. Yep. Then the next day, this is an important date, the 16th, which is only 24 hours or 48 hours after your results come out. The UAC system shuts that night at midnight. So if you do not have ICMS number 1 by that point, even if you're already in for early entry, or even if you've already received an SRS offer and you want to be in line for a high academic place, you might already have an academic offer, but if you're not number 1 in UAC, we won't be able to offer you a high academic place offer. So that's a really important deadline not to miss, because if you miss that deadline by the 16th of December, that could cost you around about $28,000 on your degree. So make sure you don't miss that deadline. And that deadline isn't set by us, so it's not flexible. It's not like we can go back into the system and say, oh, yeah, I get it, you're away, you missed the deadline, we'll just update some things in the back end. We don't have access to that. It's all done by UAC, so do not miss that deadline. 6 days later, that's when the UAC offers and the HAP offers are released. So that's when you'll find out if your HAP offer has been successful. If you're sitting here tonight, or if you're online tonight and you haven't yet applied, you're just going through UAC, that's when you hopefully receive your UAC offer as well. So they go out simultaneously. On the 19th of January, we have our degree taster day. So if you want to come along and experience what your degree will be like in a jam-packed around about 6-7 hours on that day, or you have any friends who might not be sure what they're doing, or they want to come along and check out a select number of our degrees, I would strongly recommend coming along to this day. It's here on campus, it's all free, everything's provided, but it's a really great experience to get a taster for what it's going to be like in class. You do some mini subjects, you do mini lectures, you have a few industry presentations, so I would strongly recommend applying for that online. Oops, sorry guys, are you done? Cool.
And Year 11s can come.
Yes, good point, GG. So Year 11s, I would strongly recommend coming along as well. And current Year 12s, obviously Year 11, you're now technically Year 12, so anyone is welcome to come along. So if you guys have brothers and sisters who are the year behind you, they're also more than welcome to come along. For those of you that are living on campus, at the moment the check-in date is the 1st of February. That might shift back a day or two, but at the moment it's the 1st of February. And then this is the big day for domestics. You might see some correspondence which is focused on the international cohort, but domestically the 1st of February is the big day. Orientation day and cocktail party. So that's a big night for both students and parents. So we strongly recommend parents come along to that. It's head out the front here of the campus, but that's an important day for you guys to come along to. So just a few cameras. And then after that, the campus day is the next day. So that's the day before is fun. It's a bit more formal. The next day is the campus day, colour runs, that kind of stuff. There's all the SRC stalls, student stalls, everything like that out in the main area. So that's another fun day to come along to. And then the next week, on the Monday, that's when trimester 1 starts. Now, you might not have class on day 1. You might have a Tuesday, Wednesday timetable, but that's the day when classes start. So there's a lot happening on that first couple of weeks, but that's when your classes will start. So a summary for you. If you're an early entry student, you might want to take a photo of this screen, because this is, okay, a lot of early entry here tonight. It's really good to see. Okay, got it. So this is the steps. Make sure your UAC preferences are updated. Even if you updated them for your application process and maybe you change them back, because otherwise you will miss out on a high academic place if you're eligible. If you haven't yet, accept your offer. You will then get your fee help form, which is done on the eCAF system, and then once you do that, you'll wait for your high academic place, but you'll get your timetable as well. So as soon as you've done your eCAF, you have your timetable within around about 48 to 72 hours, business hours. If you are an SRS offer only, this is a screen for you. So the only difference here is you have to accept your offer still, and then you have to do your interview, so book, attend and pass your interview, and then you get your eCAF and get your timetable before the UAC offers go out. But your UAC preferences are still important because you may be eligible for a high academic place. Then for people who aren't SRS and aren't early entry, if you're just UAC or you're just direct, make sure you go in to update your preferences before that deadline, because once it's shut, it's shut. Then your Year 12 results and ATARs are released. Then on the 22nd, your high academic places are released and your offers if you've only gone through UAC. You have to accept your offer, do your eCAF, and then you have your timetable. So if you follow the process quite quickly, even if you're coming only through UAC, which is released on the 22nd of December, you could have your timetable essentially around Christmas, and you know what your schedule is going to be for work and life 2 months ahead of time. So just to wrap up from me, guys, I think the other point I always like to make, particularly to parents, is that you have to understand that our outcomes as an institution are also your children's. So we have a close connection to what happens to your child over the 3.5 years from now that they're engaging with us, because what happens to your child is a reflection of us, and they're also our outcomes. So we have every interest in ensuring your child has a fantastic time here and solid outcomes when they're here at ICMS. So hopefully that answered a few of your questions tonight, but obviously with the Q&A that Georgina will lead shortly, please ask any questions that you may still have, or grab myself or the team afterwards. We're happy to answer all your questions. Our goal is that you leave here tonight feeling quite comfortable with your decision and have all your questions answered. So thank you very much. I look forward to your questions shortly, but I'd now like to pass to Natalie Harrison, who's our Head of Industry Training here at ICMS. Thank you.
Shake around a bit. Welcome to the Castle on the Hill. So my name's Natalie, and I have a fantastic job up here at ICMS. We get to work with when you decide that you're going to come up here and study with us, we get to work with your children and the students all the way through their degree. We have a very bespoke industry training placement philosophy here at ICMS. We get to know you right from the word go, right from O week, right through the first term. We talk to you about casual work, volunteering, setting up your LinkedIn, all of those things to help you at the end when you graduate. Then we get to our work placement. And it's not just throwing you, as Phil said, it's not just throwing you out to somewhere to tick a box. We work with you all the way through. We have a pre-placement program that we work with. So it is a really, really good program, and I've got a great team that works with us. Same as the academics, we're split up into disciplines, so the people that you've got working with your children and our students have expertise in those disciplines. They know what type of roles they'll be applying for in graduation, and that is a big, big difference for a lot of universities and colleges. So, as I said, we're set up absolutely with, there we go, all of the disciplines and lots of expertise in those disciplines. We also have, first year, we have a pathway course that helps you set up for your academic work and for your work placement. You have your 2 terms of work integrated learning. So WIL, work integrated learning, professional placement, internship, all mean the same sort of thing. Okay. Then in your 3rd year, when you come back from your placement, we also work with you, help you through your capstone degree, and then we work with you updating that resume, looking at your LinkedIn profile, making sure that you're ready for that graduation. Look. I feel like I'm on a dance floor. Oh, here we go. No?
Yep.
Ian's got it. Okay. Now, professional placement, as said, and not to confuse you, so I know we had 98% up before from our recent survey. We have 90% of graduates that are actually placed in their field. Okay, from the graduation survey, we couldn't actually tell exactly what type of role they have, but the survey that we do on our graduates, we know that 90% of those graduates are working in the field that they actually studied in. The work integrated learning, it's not just about getting the experience and putting that theory into practice, it's also about getting connections. So your children may not necessarily find their perfect role. We don't expect that to happen for their work placement. We expect them to work those, work the hard yards, get to understand what the industry's like, make some connections, find out the people that they could be working with on their placement will be people that are employing them or people they may see 20 years later. That all the industries are connected or within that industry are connected. So it really does help them get a good foot into that workplace. Okay? And as Phil explained, it's not just a couple of weeks here or there. You actually are embedded into that workplace. You're inducted into the workforce and you're there for 2 trimesters, which equates to between 6 to 8 months' worth of work placement. You can also, and it's also an academic subject, so you are actually reflecting back on the placement and the things that you've learnt here at the college. So it really does set you up for your graduation. As I said, we've got every degree has 2 terms of placement. We place over 450 students a year and we have over 1,000 connections within industry. We don't have the same connections obviously at each time of the year, but throughout the year we have lots of different connections and that's just growing. We're reconnecting now obviously with a number of companies that shut down over COVID, so we're really getting to see how they've transformed their businesses, offering different opportunities for remote working, and we've also opened up the international borders, which has been a big help for us as well. This is some reflections on some of the students that we've had been out on placement and their experiences from placement and where they've done their placement and then gone on to where they've been working. So I don't need to repeat those. A lot of these are actually up on the website and you can have a look into the background and listen to the students' information about how they performed on their placement and where they're actually working now. A number of these students also got scholarships, which the scholarship was part of their placement. And if you look at Tom, he, part of the placement actually is that scholarship side. So not just getting the placement, but they also get tuition paid for as well. So it's a bit more of a process than actually just going for a job, but it's also really good experience for students to go through that process. Another interstate one up at Queensland. Couldn't even think where it was now. Hayman, which everyone wants to go to, obviously, up into the Sunshine Coast. We have placements in Sydney, we have placements interstate, and we also have placements overseas, which we're just reigniting at the moment. And as I said, getting a job. Now, not everyone gets a job from their placement, but a lot of companies, it's a little bit of a try before you buy, same with any internship. Because at ICMS you're there for quite a while, you actually become invested within that company, and they've invested time in you as well. And that's one of the things that our team does very well, is matching the student with the type of organisation that we think that they will thrive at. We get to know them, we talk to the academics who have been in class with them, we talk to the students about what their aspirations are, we monitor their expectations, there is a pathway that you go through, But we are very proud of the placements, and we've got lots and lots of stories of students that have been very quite shy and gone on placement and have just actually blossomed and bloomed, and they've really found their niche. They really do love what they're doing. Really, I must have electricity in it. So this is a snapshot, and I know it's very small, but it does give you a little bit of an oversight of the different types of industries that we work with. As you said, we've got so many disciplines and degrees that we have here. We do have a lot of connections in all types of industries, so sport, accounting, events, tourism, so lots and lots of different connections. And we also like the students to look outside of it. So they might be studying business, but haven't thought about doing a placement, in a small startup company. So they're looking at those high ends. But we've got lots of contacts with some startup companies that have really, once again, the students get to understand how that all works. But we work with them to hope that they find something that they really like. And if it's not working out, then they come and talk to us, and we try and help them to find something that suits them better. So we don't just leave them out there and expect them to, or let them flounder, I should say. We're always there for the students. And I suppose the decisions that you're hoping to make today is when they do choose what they're going to study, that there is an outcome at the end. And we don't just put that on the brochures. We actually work that, and that's in our philosophy, and all of the staff from my team, from the recruitments, the academics, everybody works to make sure that the student gets the best education they can for success in their professional life. So you'll see up here, we've got a little Walt Disney. Okay, so we've had partnership with Walt Disney in America for a number of years now. In fact, we're coming up to having almost 70 students doing their internship for 6 months at Disney. We have a number of other overseas opportunities that we are re-engaging with, but this one's the first one to come back, so we were very, very excited. And the reason I'm telling you that is that the next speaker is actually heading to Disney for her placement at the beginning of the year. So Tali, come and let's hear what you've got to say. And obviously, any questions at the end, you're more than welcome to ask, and hopefully I'll be able to answer you.
Thank you, Natalie, for that introduction. Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for attending tonight's Parent Information Evening. My name is Tali, and I've just completed my first year here at ICMS studying the Bachelor of Business Sports Management here at the Manly campus. When I first set foot onto the castle as a Year 12 student on a mission to decide where I was going to challenge myself, find myself, and change myself, something just clicked. It was one of those moments where you can't really pinpoint in the moment, but when writing this speech and reflecting upon this year, I can say it was a feeling of belonging. When I had first started exploring my university options, it was a daunting and scary experience, especially as restrictions were tight and intense because of COVID. Everything had to be looked at online. Words such as 50,000 students, large lecture halls, 4-day timetables, and final exams terrified me. The first time I came across ICMS was through a friend who sent me a Facebook ad with the message, "Tali, this place, it seems like it might interest you." When the opportunity came to attend virtual university open days, I attended 6 different ones with my mum online. However, there was only one that stood out to us, and that was ICMS. After attending the open day virtually and researching the ins and outs of ICMS, it was apparent that this is where I wanted to go. Words such as small class sizes, 2-day-a-week timetable, 3 years of the bachelor, work integrated learning, community and scholarships excited me, and I knew I wanted to be a student here. Fast forward 12 months and I've completed my first year of uni. ICMS applies a learning and teaching philosophy, delivering an experience that is both relevant, and contemporary to the workplace. I have thoroughly enjoyed all my business and sports subjects who are taught by professionals surrounded by like-minded people. The small classes have allowed me to thrive and learn through my passion and creativity, allowing me to strengthen my relationship with teachers and students. You are thought of as more than a number where there is a genuine emphasis on personal skill development. It's so surreal that I can walk down the hallway and see my lecturer say, "Good morning, Tali," and I wonder if I would have experienced the same simple but meaningful gesture elsewhere. The fact that classes are only 2 days a week for just over 2.5 years is a huge ICMS difference. It is extremely flexible in the sense of having a healthy lifestyle of work, social and university balance. I have been very fortunate enough to put myself out there to experience so many opportunities. As a scholarship recipient, I have also become a brand ambassador, student ambassador, and a senior student ambassador. I have also volunteered as a peer-assisted learner, resident leader, and have been a member of the SRC. I have also been living on campus since February, where I've loved every single minute of it. Having to only walk 10 minutes to the beach just after class is truly a dream. These roles have increased my confidence and maturity, setting me up for the future. I have made amazing and lifelong best friends who are domestic and international, where many memories have been made through playing competitive ICMS sport, games of pool and ping pong, as well as the basement parties. I have been exposed to many networks through attending masterclasses with high-profile guests. Through my time already here at ICMS, I believe ICMS has kickstarted my career, setting me up with connections and teaching me the necessary skills to apply in the real world. I have thoroughly enjoyed my bachelor's degree so far, where I've gained insight into sport marketing, events and facilities. My passion for the business end of sport has continually grown, which excites me for my future career to work for the International Olympic Committee. Now, it is just over a month where I will be departing Sydney to complete my work integrated learning at Disney World in Florida. It is so exciting that I can travel overseas despite the last 2 years to work for the biggest entertainment company in the world as part of my degree. The opportunity is allowing me to work for the role attractions at one of the 4 Disney theme parks, where I also have the second role to work for the ESPN Wide World of Sports. This whole process in relation to the work integrated learning team have been so exciting, supporting and encouraging. Attending ICMS has been one of the best decisions I've made thus far. I am so grateful for all the opportunities I have been able to participate in, such as tonight, to share my story. Thank you.
Thank you, Tali. And now Tali's mum, Kelly, would like to share the parents' perspective. Thanks, Kelly.
Okay. Good evening, all. Deciding on a university, attending open days and parent information evenings such as tonight can be a little overwhelming for both parent and child. There are many factors to consider: what to study, where to study, and which university or college will be a good fit for your son or daughter. This is a choice that can shape their future career prospects, their friendship groups, and their interests. During last year, my daughter Tali had to make one of the most important decisions of her young life for her future. It was during last year's lockdown that we had the opportunity to attend university open days, and they were done online. Our first online open day was with ICMS, and wow, what an impressive virtual tour we had just embarked on. We were in my bedroom on her laptop, watching intently and hanging on to every word that Phil was saying. The lecturers and some students had to say about ICMS. This had us both very excited, but we still had a few virtual open days to attend and consider. So after touring the other universities, it quickly became obvious that ICMS was Tali's #1 choice, as it was mine. This is where Tali saw herself studying, and she was very impressed with what was being showcased on offer, as was I. I truly felt that this is where she would receive the best academic education for her future, and that with the smaller classes it would suit her style of learning, and that her potential could be endless if attending ICMS. I will mention the nearest uni to our house is only a couple of kilometres, but choosing a university or college is a lifestyle choice, and I believe Tali has been able to succeed as well as she currently has because of the location we are in this evening. I admit I knew nothing of the process to get into uni, as no one in our family had ever applied to a uni before, so I was on a learning curve myself to try and navigate the process so that I could offer support and guidance to Tali. I joined quite a few Zoom lessons offered by UAC to understand what the next steps were. Thankfully, Tali was across the process, and as ICMS was listed as her first preference, it just all seemed to flow from there. So from our first visit to campus, which was this time last year, we were given a tour, followed by the information evening, the interview process again, which was online, to the cocktail parties, the welcome ceremony that I attended. I have found everyone on campus approachable, warm, authentic and generous with their time. I was particularly impressed that I was contacted by a staff member and told that if I have any questions, I could contact them. And contact them I did. On a public holiday, I might add, and to my surprise, I received a text message saying that they will call me within the hour, which I appreciated as this helped to put the niggling little query I had to rest. During Tali's first interview done online, Tali was made to feel at ease, and the conversation centred around what her interest in her hobbies were, how her experiences through volunteering have shaped her passion for sport, and what her interests in and out of school were. We know as adults that the people you meet, relationships you build, social connections you make, and what you do with your opportunities that are presented to you help determine your life's path. As her parents, we have loved hearing how she has immersed herself into college life. Tali has been living on campus in the castle since February and has loved every second of it. The experience of living away from home has been very rewarding for her, and I haven't had to worry too much about her, as I know she is safe, has the support from staff and other campus students. Her wonderful uni friends, including the regional and international students, are now part of her extended family, and I know she's going to miss them greatly. Probably more than her parents, actually, but anyway. So Tali is making fantastic memories on campus with the students at the events ICMS hold. We have enjoyed hearing how she has rubbed shoulders and have conversations with some high-profile public figures such as Alex Perry while attending masterclass events that are held here. I do wonder if Tali would have had this opportunity if she went elsewhere. Tali has just completed her first year of degree, and her father and I are extremely proud of all her achievements and successes, which have included participating in the Next Gen program, being a member of the SRC, becoming a residential leader, brand ambassador, student ambassador, and now a student senior ambassador. She was also successful in receiving a scholarship and is a peer-assisted learner for her colleagues. Again, I'm not so sure if Tali would have had so many of these opportunities had she gone to uni elsewhere. I have noticed the growth and maturity in Tali and her confidence and willingness to throw herself into the opportunities that have come her way. A little bit of her is rubbing off onto me, with me being up here tonight. I feel incredibly grateful that we are able to support and share in this wonderful journey of college life alongside Tali, and I look forward to seeing where her time takes her. For now, we know it will take her to America for 7 months, and as Tali mentioned, she is participating in the Walt Disney International Cultural Exchange Program. The other day, Tali said to me, "Hey Mum, it's 55 days before I fly out." Well, sweetheart, it is 124 days before we join you on your USA adventure. So I'm not sure who is more excited. But anyway, so this is what you are here doing tonight, supporting your child and making a big decision. All I can say is that this was the best decision and the right decision for Tali. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Now, we're going to open up for some questions. Samantha, do we have any questions on the live chat?
We do, yeah.
Can you read them out? Yeah. We'll start with the live chat.
So, someone would like to know if this is for Nat, I can read them out.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Ian.
Hi, everyone. So, Angela Council on the Facebook live stream would like to know, is the WIL position a paid position? If not, how are part-time jobs managed with WIL when part-time jobs are required to earn an income to support the student?
Okay, it's not a simple yes or no. Some of the WIL professional placements are paid, but the majority are part-time volunteers or with an allowance. That also gives the students opportunities to continue with their casual work, so that they're not left without funds or money. The other thing with the work integrated learning program is you actually don't pay for that subject, so you're not forking out the funds for that subject. So it's really like, I equate it to you're going to class time, but you're not paying for it, if that makes sense. So I can't say that they're all paid, and it does depend on the discipline and the company. We do our best to try and get an allowance, but you actually don't pay to do that subject.
Thank you. Sam, do we have any other questions on the live?
One of the other ones was, so what are the next steps from here? Where to go next? Just to emphasise that.
Well, Phil has probably covered that quite in his presentation.
I don't obviously know where this person is up to in the process, but essentially, in summary, if they have only applied, whether direct or through UAC at this point, then they have to make sure we're number one in UAC and wait for their ATARs and subject marks to come out on the 15th. Make sure we're still number one at midnight on the 16th, and then on the 22nd, they'll get their offer, hopefully. And then from that point, accept your offer, do your eCAF, get your timetable, turn up to O week. If you're in SRS, book an interview, do your eCAF, get your timetable. Make sure we're number one in UAC for your high academic place. If you are successful early entry, make sure you've accepted your offer, done your eCAF, got your timetable, and made sure ICMS is number one for your hopefully your high academic place come 22nd of December. Yep.
Get yourself to Manly and walk up the hill.
Yep.
Now, we do have a couple of students here. Do the students have any questions for Tali? No? Well, you can think about that. How about any questions for Kelly? Any questions for Phil? He's always the one who gets a lot of questions. Yeah?
So if somebody has a conditional offer, if somebody has an unconditional offer now and then can they choose to defer for a year? Is that a possibility?
Yeah, good question. They can. You can't defer a high academic place. So what we recommend is, if it depends, when I say depends, we have options for them to still receive their high academic place if they are looking to defer. If they're looking to do a European gap year, essentially, then we suggest, as best you can, start in February, at least with one subject, but if you can, 4 subjects, which is only 12 hours a week, because what students often forget is a European summer is our winter. So starting with February in us means you can start in February, do the first term of uni with us, and then defer from that point, and still go overseas, do your gap year, have fun, and then come back and just pick up at your 5th subject, essentially. Your high academic place, for example, is still intact, and you keep going. So that's what we generally recommend for students, to at least start in February with 1, but hopefully 4 subjects, and then they can defer once they get through their first trimester. Yep.
Great. Thanks, Phil. Any other questions? Yeah?
I just have a question about the high academic placement. So in my own research, and I'm sorry if you've already said this, I understood that it was a 78R. So if you get above that, the course costs a certain amount, and if you get below that, I think you said it's $28,000 more.
Yes, so what this aligns with is, it aligns with the Commonwealth supported place system at a public university. So what, and I'm not trying to mansplain to anyone, but what people are not often aware of at a public university is a Commonwealth supported place is essentially a fully funded position which is covered by the government, but then the student only has to repay what equates to roughly 60% of the total tuition fee. Now, what that means at a public university is is there are students who go to university who aren't on a CSP. They're on what's called a full fee paying position, which means that would be basically equivalent to our full fee paying as well. So what we've done is, because we don't receive the Commonwealth supported funding from the government, we've essentially just subsidised the tuition fee ourselves to make it equal for students, because the government policy isn't the student's problem or fault, and we don't want that to be a reason that they're impacted negatively financially. So we have aligned as best we can across all the public universities the ATAR cutoff, which we can understand is the CSP cutoff as best we can externally, and then to align it so they're the same,
Yes.
if that makes sense.
So that it reflects what universities are doing, really. Yep.
We just can't call it a Commonwealth supported place because we're not granted those
Yes.
positions from the government.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Any other questions? Yep.
With the work placement, you said it's only part-time, so do they sort of do the same days that they would normally do uni, or it's not a full-time position?
So if they are doing a part-time, so some of them are full-time, some of them are part-time, but if they are doing either, they can only do one other additional subject when they're doing their work placement, because it is an actual academic subject and the hours are quite onerous for that long period of time. They've still got assessment tasks. We only allow them to do one additional subject so that we're not setting them up for failure. They would still, roughly, it works if they work for two to 2.5 days a week for that 8-month period, it still equates to the 600 hours that they need to do.
So they're not going to end up working full-time?
If they're on a part-time placement, no. If they're on a full placement, a full working placement where they get paid like they're just going to a job, which a lot of the hospitality students do, it has a lot to do with Fair Work Trade. So if you are taking on an internship or taking on an intern in a role that is imperative for your organisation to exist, so a barista in a cafe, they have to be paid. If you're taking on an intern as a HR assistant, where you've already got an HR manager and they're being shadowed or mentored through that process, they don't have to be paid. So that's it, sort of in a nutshell.
Any other questions? Okay, well then please help yourself to another drink from Cameron at the back and some snacks. And thank you very much for coming. Before we go, I'd love to thank Tali and Kelly. They were both sitting in your position last year, and now they're up here. And I'm wondering who will be up here next year. But thank you very much, everyone, for coming.